If you are a man between 40 and 50 years old, or if your partner is in this age range, this is highly relevant to you. Why do men experience a midlife crisis, otherwise known as the turning 40 crisis? This transition typically occurs between the late 40s and mid 50s. The archetypal example involves a man who suddenly gets a divorce, abandons his family, buys a sports car, dates much younger women, and generally casts aside his responsibilities in favor of an increasingly hedonistic lifestyle. While women can also experience midlife crises, theirs are generally different and much less frequent. The factors that tend to trigger this phenomenon are simply more common in men than in women. Not every man goes through a midlife crisis. So, what exactly causes this phenomenon when it does appear? It primarily happens for two reasons. The first reason is that it tends to affect men who have been highly accommodating toward others, deeply dutiful, and responsibility-oriented for most of their adult lives, and sometimes even since adolescence. These are men who initially try to make their parents happy, then meet the expectations of their school teachers, later became dedicated, self-sacrificing employees, and ultimately turned into underappreciated providers for their wives and children. Throughout their lives, they have measured themselves against everyone else's yardstick, acting exactly as they were supposed to, often at the expense of their own happiness. They received social rewards for their sacrifices, but what they gained was frequently far less than what they lost in the exchange. Around the age of 40 in the modern world, people usually experience their first real confrontation with mortality. We all know abstractly that we will die someday, but at this stage, it becomes a concrete reality. A parent falls seriously ill and passes away, or the individual experiences their first major health scare. Suddenly, there is no one standing between them and death. Previously, grandparents and parents stood ahead of them in line, but during midlife, a person can feel like they are next. This sparks a growing awareness that not only are their remaining years limited, but those years will also be less vibrant due to declining physical fitness. At the moment, an unsettling realization hits. I have spent my entire life doing what I'm supposed to do and what others wanted from me. If I do nothing, I am going to spend the rest of my days doing the exact same thing. What about me? My life belongs to me too. I want to have certain experiences before I die because life is short. This form of self-interest, which has been repressed for so long, suddenly explodes. This is not inherently bad. It is the privilege and responsibility of every human being to live their own life. Without a healthy element of self-interest, people do not live life. Life lives them. Therefore, asking "what about me?" is a completely rational question. The problem arises when a man reaches 45 and only then urgently begins trying to live on his own terms. Because he has ignored his own needs for decades, he is completely out of practice when it comes to exercising self-interest. This lack of practice is precisely why more men than women experience a severe midlife crisis. For better or worse, many women routinely check in with themselves and ask, "What about me? I deserve fulfillment too." Men do not do this as often. For some men, the last time they allowed themselves to act purely on their own desires was when they were 15 years old. When a 45-year-old man who hasn't prioritized himself in 30 years suddenly starts doing so, his self-interest closely resembles that of a teenager because he is trying to make up for lost time. This is why a midlife crisis often manifests as adolescent fantasies involving sports cars and attractive younger women. Having paused the development of his personal desires for 3 decades, he reverts to that exact level of emotional functioning. You might wonder if being self-interested is inherently wrong. It is not. Self-interest is deeply connected to individual survival and personal growth. Attempting to completely eliminate this innate human trait creates far more problems than it solves. Can it go too far? Absolutely. It is not about becoming entirely selfish, but about practicing self-love. Many people are simply not self-interested enough regarding their own happiness and well-being. If this need is repressed for 30 years, it will inevitably explode abruptly and at the worst possible moment. A little bit of self-care along the way acts as a release valve, preventing unsustainable pressure from building up. A man who gradually integrates his personal desires throughout his life will not detonate an emotional bomb at age 45. The second reason is that men who experience a midlife crisis are usually exceptionally skilled at delaying gratification. Most have spent the last 2 decades working tirelessly on their professional careers. A large part of their success is built on discipline and the ability to sacrifice present pleasure for a future reward. This is an incredibly useful skill, and men who cannot delay instant gratification rarely achieve long-term goals. To build something valuable, you must be able to set aside your immediate desires. However, you cannot take your achievements with you when you die. Another major realization men face when confronting mortality is that they might never actually enjoy the wealth, prosperity, and achievements they worked so hard to secure. Delaying gratification is excellent, but delaying it until your deathbed is a mistake. They begin to think, if I delay gratification indefinitely, I am not postponing it. I am missing out on it entirely. How much time do I really have left? They are absolutely right, because no one truly knows how much time they have. These men naturally want their piece of the cake. The problem, as before, is that they have gone without regular rewards for so long that gaining sudden access to pleasure is like handing an unlimited credit card to someone who has never had money. A person in that situation does not behave like a mature consumer. They spend impulsively without prioritizing, ending up with debts and regret. In contrast, someone accustomed to managing their rewards practices better self-regulation, knows when to stop, and makes rational decisions because they do not view the moment as their single fleeting opportunity to enjoy themselves. Men must regularly practice both healthy self-interest and personal reward. Reward yourself for your efforts from time to time. If you do not, you will either give up on fulfillment entirely or drastically increase the probability of exploding into reckless excess. If properly redirected, such an emotional upheaval can serve as a turning point toward responsible self-gratification. However, the sudden and disruptive nature of many midlife crises makes them difficult to navigate, particularly because many partners are unwilling to endure the process, leading to broken relationships. Okay, and if you like this video, please thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell to get notifications of my new videos. Send me your comments if you want me to talk about any specific topic. Okay? See you guys next time. Bye bye.